Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got Chris Burrus and Patty Greer, and today we're going to be talking about plasma energy, crop circles, longevity, a breakthrough that never made it in the headlines, and how all that ties into the C60 Evo that you guys have to be aware. And we're going to see a presentation today. And just before we begin, I want to say that we're back on YouTube. And I just want to put it on there for the disclaimer, because YouTube is tough, and we want to use the platform to bypass everything so that we can get to the viewers and wake as many people as possible. And I just want to put a disclaimer and say that we're not financial and health advisors. Please do your own research. We're not making any claims, and also. This is for educational and purposes only. God, I've almost lost my words. But Chris, thank you. Chris and Patty, thank you both so much for joining me. How are you, and what have you been up to? We go with Chris first.
Well, Nicholas, great getting your channel back. I mean, finally, that's awesome. Well done. Happy New Year to you. We're off and running in 2026. That's really exciting, and I'm excited to be reconnected with you here today.
And Happy New Year to you too. I'm so great that you guys are back on. I love our interviews. And Patty, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're our only English influence that we work with, and we really appreciate that. We need a little stickhold everywhere around the world so that we can get the products out. But I want to say we've been doing shows, for a few years. And yesterday was the first time I called Chris early in the week, and I said, I want you to take people into the lab this month, January 2026. We're upping a lot of things about C60 Evo, and I want to introduce people to what a real lab looks like, because we're the only real lab making this product, ESS60. And it won the Nobel Prize in 1996 for its excellence in almost every application tested. Chris and Robert don't look old enough, but they've been making it since 1991, selling to research institutions around the world. And it wasn't until the last 10 years that there was a peer-reviewed test, used our product. We're proud to say the ESS60 in olive oil, and they tested it for toxicity. Not only was it not toxic, but the rats died without any tumors, and they live 90% longer, which is the longest longevity study results in history. So we are raging with wonderful peer-reviewed papers that our products delivered from our lab. So we're very proud of it. But yesterday, listening to Chris do this explanation in the lab, I had to stop him in the middle, and we're live on the show. And I said, wait, did you just say, and he's going to show you what happens inside the reactor that burns our product at the heat of the sun. But he said that they're turning, counter-rotating. Wait, counter-rotating spin? Yep, I never knew that. Now, I made a lot of crop circle movies. Hey, I said you could come in for a minute. This is one of my EBE awards for my films. I have 5 of these beasts. He's pretty handsome, but I was the only filmmaker that went into the lab of the real scientist of crop circles and presented to the public that they're absolutely real, but they're coming out of the earth in spinning tornado plasma fields, plasma vortices of spinning plasma. Now, when they spin to the exact right, the speed, they get to the right frequency, the base of the vortex becomes this ball of light. Believe it or not, those balls of light, I have caught it on film, communicate, and the field goes down instantly in a bird, a binary code pattern, a huge sacred geometry mandala that could take an acre or two. Unbelievable magic happening in the earth with the vortational spin of counter-rotating vortices. Spaceships, same thing. Crop circles, same thing. And when Chris said ESS60, we do the same thing yesterday, I just stopped. I was like, my God, the basic scientific method, perhaps, of creating matter is right before us, because crop circles with intention and spinning plasma vortices of plasma are dropping a message that It's coming from the earth itself. At our lab, we're spinning these products, and our intention is to be able to have people and pets ingest it and shift their life for the better. So, what an amazing day for me. I'm beaming about it because I realized that it wasn't just God said, "Oh, you've been through so much with the UFO field. We're going to gift you and give you the lab partners." But now that I realize it's the similar scientific method, it just feels like, wow, that's why I'm here with Chris and Robert as a non scientific person. But I'm speaking science now because I understand the principles of crop circle creations with plasma vortices, but to fact check and learn that it's also making this incredible molecule into a product that we can give to people and pets. I'm just in heaven. So, Chris is going to take you for a tour of the lab, and you're not going to get to see the reactor. He'll tell you why, but he'll show you a sketch of it and explain literally how we make ESS 60 in our lab. And it's a mind-boggling process. But a lot of people don't realize it's not quick, it's not cheap, and it's very time-consuming to get to the point that we're at now, which is testing, 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 to realize 3 weeks is the perfect amount of time for this size vessel. And that's what they've done at the lab for 34 years, is to come up with the very best product. So lucky me, I've been with them 6 years, 5.5, and they've mastered it. So we are putting out wonderful, wonderful gifting to the world, and I'm very proud of us.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see that. Thank you so much, Patty and Chris. Let's go.
All
Let's
right,
go.
let me pull up this slide. And so, of course, we are talking about, I love this model of the molecule. It's beautiful. If you're listening, I'm holding up a model. The best way to kind of imagine it is imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. And I'm going to talk about how you make this. First, I want to point out you don't have to make this. Everybody in your audience has actually been exposed to this already. The evidence for that is if you take the soot from a candle, and the way you would normally collect that soot is maybe put a cold steel plate over a candle flame. That deep, dark soot contains parts per million or parts per billion of the ESS60 molecule. And so everybody has been exposed to it. It is a naturally occurring molecule, just at such low quantities. In order to get it into a supplement that could provide any value, you've got to manufacture it. And this chart is really from the original patent way back in 1991. Actually, probably a little bit before 1991, on how to manufacture this. Now, Patty kind of told you our reactor looks very different than this. It's the same principles, and we'll talk about what's going on here. So let's kind of jump in. The first thing is in order to manufacture this molecule, you have to vaporize graphite. And in order to vaporize graphite, because it's one of the hardest materials on the planet to vaporize, you need to vaporize it at the temperatures of the sun. So right where these two graphite rods are intersecting you would have a plasma that is the temperature of the sun. And that's why you can see water cooling all over this device. It's around the main box. There's actually extra water cooling around the arms that help feed in the the graphite tubes. We do have to manufacture at a reduced atmosphere, so a slight vacuum, and in the absence of oxygen. So you see a vacuum pump, you actually have to vacuum pump this out, get rid of all the oxygen. You put helium gas, which is an inert gas, back into it. You vacuum it out again to get rid of the last remaining oxygen, and then you fill it back up again with helium. So already just a long process. And then you fire this up. You've got this beautiful arc that's going between these two graphite rods. Typically, if you vaporize graphite rods, they'll start to skew, right? Their flat surfaces will start to skew one way because particles are getting deposited on one end and vaporizing faster on one section. In order to prevent that, that's actually a problem in production. In order to prevent that, you have to rotate them in opposite directions. And that's what Patty was talking about. In this plaza, you got reverse you've got rotating in opposite directions, these graphite rods. And that's the thing that kind of sparked Patty to go like, oh my God, same thing as a crop circle technology. It's interesting. You've got this window up here, so you can watch this reaction occur. If you don't have welder's goggles there, you will burn out your retina. And in fact, if you let the light from this reaction shine on your skin, you will get a sunburn because it is, in fact, the temperature of the sun. And that is the main process for manufacturing. Now, when you manufacture, you make this soot, and the best way to kind of think about this soot is think about, ink toner. Everyone's replaced an ink toner in a printer, and it's this powder that gets everywhere. If you took a handful of that powder and dropped it, none of it would hit the ground because it's so light and fluffy. So it's incredibly dirty. Well, it turns out that in that production soot, only 90% of it is garbage. 90% of it is what's called amorphous carbon. And so you need to separate that from what we would call the fullerenic extract. And this is a picture of fullerenic extract here on the right. And the way you do that is the same way you might separate, let's say you had some sugar and sand all mixed together. You would put water in it, dissolve the sugar in the water, and then you would filter it. The sand would stay on top of the filter, and the sugar would go through with the water through the filter in solution. And then you boil off the water, and now you've got your sugar crystals. The same thing happens here. You dissolve it, you filter it. The 90% of amorphous carbon garbage stays on top of the filter, and the fullerenes go through, including the ESS60 molecule, in solution. And then you just boil off that solvent. In the case of sugar and water, it was sugar and sand, it was actually water. You boil off that solvent, and then you're left with this extracted fullerene soot. Now, this soot actually has multiple fullerenes in it. The most abundant of them is C60. And by the way, when we finalize the process for C60 so that it's safe for people and pets, we call that ESS60. But you have a number of fullerenes. You've got C60, C70, 74, 76, 78, and on up. You can see that the C60 molecule is spherical. That's the one that I showed you already. And then you can see that C70 is a little bit more kind of rugby shaped, more football shaped, and then they go back to spherical. About 80% of that extracted fullerene soot is C60. You've got to separate that with a chromatography process, and then you get down to isolated C60. You further refine that so it's safe for people and pets, and now you have ESS60. And again, it did win the Nobel Prize in 1996. We've been manufacturing it since 1991, a full 5 years before they won the Nobel Prize. I don't know if you have any questions. I can kind of do a brief tour of our lab.
Yeah. So you actually done a trial. I want to remind the viewers that you done a trial on rats where they lived 90% longer but without tumors. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, a typical Wistar rat lives 32 months and has a known amount of tumor mass. The longer it lives, the more tumor mass it has in its body. The C60 Evo rats lived out to 62 months, a full 90% longer, and none of them had any tumors. It's a very important aspect of the study.
And we know that this will work on humans too.
Well, we have an understanding, like we are an organization that is currently, like we're a very weird supplement company, right? I'll stop sharing for a second. We're a very weird supplement company in that most supplement companies do not continue to do research, and even fewer publish that research. We actually continue to do that research. We published a paper last year. We published a paper the year before. We actually published with the original researcher associated with that study where the rats lived 90% longer than the control group. Our lab provided the material, and our lab is mentioned in that original study. So yeah, we're kind of a strange organization. The study that we have under our belt already, it's kind of an ad hoc study. It's a survey study on sleep. And 100% of the participants reported improvements in sleep when they were on the product. So yeah, we are currently working for that. We have in process a migraine trial, an HSCRP trial, which is a very specific biological marker for inflammation. We all know that inflammation is bad, or chronic inflammation is bad. Acute inflammation is necessary for the healing process, but this chronic inflammation is the thing that causes inflammation. So we're doing an HSCRP study. And then we're also actually, because we have some cosmetic products, thank you to Patty, we're actually doing some wrinkle and blemish studies as well. We're looking at we might call 2026 the year of studies because we're pushing so hard to get so many studies under our belt.
Well, I can't wait to hear about these studies because I might just be in time for the anti-wrinkles, studies. So use me as a guinea pig.
You are already our guinea pig. You might not know.
Yeah, you are. And the way you're glowing is like, yeah, that's one of ours.
Well, I have to say, my favorite is the olive oil. I use it every day. One heap of, that's the one. I've got I received the big one the other day through the post. Amazing. It was like this big, like literally amazing. Patty's going to show you now. That's how big it is. It's in my kitchen where all my supplements are. And it's when I wake up in the morning, I take a tablespoon of that olive oil. And even when I'm making the salad, I put it in my salad. I put it on my tomatoes and everything. I love it. We love olives. I mean, I'm Greek. I mean, I know I'm British, but my ethnicity is Greek, and we love olive oil. So it's right up my street. And thank you very much. And at the same time, it's helping me feel better. I'm reducing fogginess, improving my sleep. And it's just amazing. It's really good. Thank you very much. But let's get into the lab. I want to see the lab, Chris.
All right. Yeah, let's dig. All right. So this is our lab. I love to kind of point out these vessels up front, if they remind you of a beer facility. These are when we first started manufacturing this on a regular basis. I actually had them kind of bring this back into the shot because I thought it was a good history piece. These are vats used to make beer, right? To process beer. And we just modified them so that they could manufacture and actually really, we have to mix our product. This is olive oil with this ESS60 molecule for 3 weeks, and I'll talk about that here in a second. Yes, those are kegs in the back. There is a beer theme here, but those are kegs. The beautiful thing about kegs is we can actually have a buffer gas in them, and it is a sealed container so that when we need to store, by the way, we don't store very often, but even if it sits for about a week, it's safe with a buffer gas, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here. When we originally moved into this facility about 5 years ago, right about 5 years ago, maybe 6, when we moved into this facility, I was doing calculations based on these smaller vessels of how much more our production could manage, and it was 10 times. And then the team started buying these massive, 100-liter vessels, and so we can manage so much more production. Now, cool things about this, or at least interesting, I'm geeky and sciencey. You can see this one tube here, right? This one blue tube and these lines on the wall. Those are nitrogen tubes because we do have to mix this for 3 weeks. And when you're mixing it, you actually have a pretty good rapid mixing rate. And so there's a pretty good sized vortex inside of this chamber. And that would fold in the air, whatever air is there. We don't want to have oxygen in there, so we have this nitrogen bleed that is actually putting nitrogen into the system so that if there's any air being folded in, it's an inert gas like nitrogen and will cause zero degradation. And that's because you're mixing it for so long at such a rapid rate. So we mix that there. If we go to next slide, there you can see those tubes again. That's actually a flow meter to make sure that we've got a positive nitrogen buffer gas and the production. That's Robert, kind of my lab business partner. He's doing some QA, QC. This is our director of research, also digging into there and understanding what's going on there. This is our lobby. So we've got this kind of fun molecule, but that's a massive molecule at on the ceiling up in our lobby. And then one other slide that I think is really important, and we're unique because we're the oldest and longest manufacturer and distributor of this molecule on the planet. And we've had this HPLC and other HPLCs. This is a high performance liquid chromatography. We've had these since we opened in basically 1991. And what this does, you can see there's a better shot here. This right here is what's called an HPLC column, a high performance liquid chromatography column. So you inject a sample and you're able to use this detector and understand what your concentrations are, right? So you get a graph that looks kind of like this, right, coming out of it, showing you, actually more like this, showing you like, hey, this is how much of the carbon 60 molecule, how much of the carbon 70 molecule, et cetera. And that comes out of that, out of that column separated. So the value of having this in-house is why we actually mix for 3 weeks in these vessels. The original study was done, this was way back in 2012, it was done in an Erlenmeyer flask. That's that kind of triangular flask. And they reached maximum concentration in 2 weeks. As we were using these bigger and bigger vessels, noticed that it took longer and longer because the fluid dynamics are different in these different vessels. So at the time at one point, we tested 22 of the products in what we would call the industrial C60 space, and they were woefully low in concentration. And I'm pretty altruistic. I don't think anybody's doing anything on purpose. They just should do it better. I think they upped their vessels to these size vessels and just assumed 2 weeks was going to be enough, not taking into consideration the fact that these larger vessels have a different fluid dynamics issue. And because they don't have the equipment, because they're not the oldest and longest manufacturer and distributor of the molecule on the planet, they actually have to send their samples out to get tested. This is a big hindrance if you're doing a production. You're like, hey, we've got to take the sample, we've got to send it out, we've got to wait a couple days, we get our results back. Oh, it's not ready yet, let's start mixing again. So that's why, because we have this HPLC in-house is why we were able to determine that it takes 3 weeks to actually do the production and to get the production right. And I think that's why we have one of the best products on the market.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing that with us. Is there any more to that presentation before I move on to Patty?
No, that really covers a lot of it. And then, yeah, of course, Patty is excited about this counter rotating plasmas.
Patty, let's talk about that. And also if there's anything that you'd like to add to what Chris was saying.
Well, I think that he brought up a really interesting point, which is, the industry doesn't probably, when I read third party tested on a product that we've tested that had 1/10 of what it should have, I'm thinking, who's the third party? Your uncle? Your 7-year-old niece? Like, who's the third party? Bear with me. But I've been watching when people say third party, and then they're going, well, you're doing in-house. It's like, yeah, because we've got the proper equipment. And I think, when you start professional and you continue with integrity, this is what you get. So for me, I just feel like I'm blessed because this product, the way I was introduced to it was it saved my life. Somebody gave me a sample from Chris's lab with the olive oil, didn't even tell me it was Nobel Prize. It was just, try this. And I could barely walk. I had been badly wounded by humans a couple times because I had a bad habit of winning these awards. And it really pissed off the guys in the UFO field, which I realized, wait a minute, they weren't guys in the UFO field. They were agents of the I don't know. I shouldn't say any of those alphabet initials, but they were all basically, we were infiltrated when I was ending my movie career, or they ended it for me because I was winning too many awards and they wanted me to be quiet. And when I realized what was it about the spinning plasma that made it valuable was that the crop circles were delivering 30 to 400% more food and biofuel per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition. So what you have is this natural occurring thing in crop fields around the world, but mostly in southern England, in Somerset, in Wiltshire, Stonehenge, Avebury Stone Circle, Stonehenge Stone Circle, Glastonbury. Basically, those are the map for me. And I would always stay in the Avebury Stone Circle B&Bs because I'd wake up in the morning, have coffee, and the host would say, oh, ladies, there's 2 more crop circles last night while you slept. I think I broke the door flying through it. I mean, We didn't even finish our coffee. That's all they needed to say. My friend was Barbara Lamb, who we'd meet sometimes. She did tours of people from around the world would come to England. She'd do the tours. I was making the movies. But we would meet a few days early and go experience the crop circles that had happened in the summer. I never doubted them because I was in them physically. Little teeny hairs standing up on my arm, chills head to toe, tingles on the top of my head. But when I look at the patterns, some of them extremely ornate, and they happened last night, and there's no footprints, and it rained. For instance, I should have brought these closer. But for instance, this crop circle, which you may have seen before, it's 409 circles, and each of them flawless inside in Fibonacci sequence, spiral. So flawless mathematical sequence, and there's a whole circle of them. They happen on a rainy night, but they happen because the message came out of the earth with intention. The vortices were very, very strong. They spun faster and faster. The orbs lit up at the base of the vortices. They communicated. Boom, the field went down in seconds. And a lot of the three-letter agents are going, oh, that's fake. That's just fake. Patty Greer, her footage is fake. It's like, no. So anyway, it's humorous. You talk about your suppression. We have 5 different great people that were suppressed 5 years that just got their YouTube channels back. I don't know why I'm suppressed off X. Like if you do 6 hashtags, that might be the only thing I did wrong. But I'm like, what's with you guys? Anyway, I couldn't get back on. So Team India, but the suppression is something that we're all dealing with a lot. And ultimately, the purpose of this is strength of mind. For me, this is like a God blessing for the brain, because when you take it, the first thing most people notice is, wow, my brain feels less foggy, more awake. Wow, I remember things that I wasn't remembering. And that's why I took a big shot of it before the show. And I want to remember more than I do, to swish it in my teeth before I swallow. Not a lot like oil pulling, but just a few swishes, because it's so good for the gums and the teeth. And, the olive oil alone is all that great. The ESS 60 alone is all that great, but you got to put them together, blend them for 3 weeks, and then you've got a formula that's changing people's lives. And I don't know anybody that I've given a sample to that hasn't gone back and gotten more. So when you have stacks of supplements that you buy all the time, which I have done my whole life, and you don't feel anything different, you just kind of hope they work, or you think they work, or somebody said they will, then you take a spoonful of ESS 60 olive oil and you go, whoa, that I feel.
Yeah.
And it's so effective and so good for every part of the body that I started wiping my fingers on the lid and on the spoon, rubbing it, putting it on my face. Next thing I knew, my 50,000 miles on a Harley started softening. And I was like, are you kidding me? Skin too? So I called Chris and I said, we got to do a face formula. And of course, a bunch of guys in the lab were like,
hey, that sounds amazing.
I want to let the viewers know the links below in the description, so you can find everything there. The olive oil, the face, and everything is in there. So click on the link below. And I just want to say about, the plasma energy stuff that you're talking about. When you're working with, fields and frequency, you're working with God, because that's the frequency, that's the fabric of God, and that's an amazing thing, and it's not synthetic, like what the Big Pharma's doing. So and that's what I love, and it's absolutely fantastic, and I take it religiously every day, and I love it, and yeah. So the links below in the description. Guys, I was going to say, is there anything else that you'd like to say?
You got me spinning again when you said the God connection, because it's so good. Let's talk about really what plasma is. Everything is plasma. I am, you are, this is, everything's plasma. And then we take our plasma and we look at, how does humanity function? How do things work? Frequency. when you boost the frequency of something, you're going to get perhaps more energy from it. So when we have plasma consciousness, which is when I think, feel, say anything, and I send it in that direction, I really, really love you. I really, really want you to fall over and die, or whatever it is. I don't want to say it like that, but it's true. We throw out all these thoughts. What we're doing is sending energy in motion, which is emotion. So we're sending out our plasma field through thoughts or words, and people feel it, and energy responds. So we have to be really conscious of our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions, especially when we raise our frequency. This is the easiest thing. This and a spoon will raise the frequency. I'm saying for most people, and it's not a scientific statement I made, it's an energy statement from me as a hippie chick in Boulder. I really believe it's true because I've seen people go from sad life to getting on Evo and going, oh, I'm going to get out there and start doing things again. So energy and motion, we got to be really clear about our intentions. But when we spin plasma in a positive direction, we can create matter by adding intention, thus crop circles. Added intention from whoever decided the pattern was going to be that, which is the earth herself, and the crop circle goes down. With ESS 60, we're spinning the plasma fields in a huge metal chamber that's creating, with their intention, a product that makes a difference. And we've been successful, so yay. Intention, spin, raise your frequency, and have the best 2026 ever.
Absolutely. Patty, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Chris, is there anything that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
I'm going to parallel that. Let's make 2026 an amazing year. There's already some health changes happening in politics, so that's kind of exciting. So I'm looking forward to what 2026 brings us.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you very much. And again, the link's below. Click on the link and let me know what you think. Leave a testimonial on the website. Leave a comment in the video description below because Nick V wants to know. Okay. So thank you, and we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless. Bye-bye.